Hello everyone, welcome back to Critical Coverage. Today, we're delving into a pressing issue that's impacting countless children and families, the alarming rise of child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, online. Recently, U.S. Senators Josh Hawley and Dick Durbin led the first Judiciary Subcommittee hearing of the 119th Congress to confront this escalating crisis head-on.
Important than confronting the scourge of child sexual exploitation, or CSAM. That's an anodyne-sounding abbreviation. But as I hope everybody in the room appreciates, and those who are listening online understand, that abbreviation stands in for a terrifying, horrifying reality. We're talking about, in a word, child pornography. We're talking about child sexual exploitation, child sexual abuse. The amount of this material online, available online, is truly astounding, and we're going to talk about that over the course of today's hearing. But of course, these aren't just statistics. Every single instance of CSAM online represents a real child, a real person who has been tragically and oftentimes life-alteringly abused. And it's the conviction of myself, and I know Senator Durbin, and I hope every member of not just this subcommittee, but the entire Senate Judiciary Committee, that we have to do something about this. We've talked about it for years. The time to take definitive action is here.
During the hearing, Senator Hawley highlighted the staggering increase in online child exploitation. He revealed that in 2023, there were over 36 million reports of online child sexual exploitation, a dramatic rise from 1.1 million in 2014. Even more concerning, the number of reported images of child sexual abuse surged from 450,000 in 2004 to over 104 million in recent years.
When an online platform becomes aware of instances of child sexual exploitation under our law, they're required to report those instances to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, their cyber tip line, and we're delighted to have the CEO of NCMEC with us today. But just consider this data. In 2014, the number of reported instances of online child sexual exploitation in 2014 was 1.1 million. Now that's a staggering number. But consider where it is today. In 2023, the year for which we have the most recent full data, that number was 36.2 million. 1.1 million in 2014, 36.2 million reports of online child sexual exploitation in 2023. And the number of urgent reports, those are cases where the child is thought to be at present risk. You might say clear and present danger. That number has grown by 140% in just the last 3 years. If you think about the images themselves, the poster behind me gives you some sense of this. Back in 2004, there were 450,000 images reported online of child sexual abuse material. Again, that number in itself is huge. Nothing like what we're seeing today. The number today tops 104 million known reported images of child sexual abuse online. This is truly a crisis. It is an epidemic. And it's not a theory. It affects far too many children in the United States of America, to say nothing of the, as we've seen, hundreds of millions of children worldwide. So the question is, what are we going to do about it?
These aren't just statistics. Each number represents a child subjected to unimaginable abuse. In response to this crisis, Senators Hawley and Durbin have reintroduced the bipartisan STOP CSAM Act. This legislation aims to crack down on the proliferation of child sexual abuse material online by allowing victims to sue companies that host this material, among other measures.
Senator Durbin and I, in the last Congress, introduced what I believe is truly landmark legislation, which I might add passed the Senate Judiciary Committee in what is nothing short of a miracle by a unanimous vote. This legislation would protect child victims and witnesses in courts with new rights, new safeguards, new procedures. It would expand the scope of restitution provisions in current law. It would enhance the cyber tip line. It would create a child online protection board to allow parents and victims to go and argue their case, to have material taken down and to receive restitution. And for my money, maybe most importantly, it would allow victims, finally, to have their day in court. It would allow victims to get into court and to bring suit against online platforms that are hosting this material and making money on it. Which brings me to the culpability of big tech.
The STOP CSAM Act proposes several critical measures. Removing legal immunity. The act seeks to remove Section 230 immunity for civil claims against online platforms related to CSAM, holding tech companies accountable for the content they host. Empowering victims. It creates a private right of action, allowing victims to file civil lawsuits against platforms that fail to promptly remove CSAM material. Establishing oversight. The act proposes the creation of a Child Online Protection Board within the Federal Trade Commission, responsible for enforcing the removal of CSAM material and authorized to fine platforms that fail to comply. Enhancing reporting requirements. Online platforms would be required to include additional information in reports to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's Cyber Tip Line, ensuring more comprehensive and timely reporting of child exploitation offenses.
Complain frequently that, oh, it's just too expensive for us. They're not disrupting, they're not detecting, they're not deterring, and yet, in 2023, Meta had a profit, not revenues, profits, of $23 billion. Google, $60 billion in profits in 1 year. Apple, $97 billion in profits. Amazon, $27 billion in profits. So don't tell me that they don't have the wherewithal financially to disrupt, detect, and report. They absolutely do. The truth is, they don't want to do it. And right now, they're really not compelled to do it.
Experts at the hearing emphasized the urgent need for these measures. Michelle DeLaune, CEO of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, stated that the STOP CSAM Act would fundamentally change how the nation combats online child sexual exploitation.
It's interesting. I think as you were talking also about what we learned from the Australian E-Safety Commissioner, it goes to also a provision within the STOP CSAM Act about transparency reports. We're spending a lot of time trying to identify where there's a decrease in reports, what happened. So much we have learned from what they're telling us from Australia is something that we would be able to take out. The transparency. What are these companies doing that is allowing this to happen? Are they detecting? Are they reporting? Where are they getting their information? How long are they holding? What types of reports are they getting from victims, from the public? At this point, we don't know. It's actually remarkable how much we do know when you consider this is entirely voluntary. Besides when there is a known violation of a parent-child pornography, sex trafficking, or online enticement, at that point it triggers a report. Other than that, this is all just based on relationships and meeting the right person and finding out what they're doing. It's not going to work any longer. We're seeing that. The voluntary structure of how the companies are making decisions without any sort of transparency, so we understand what they're doing and what they're not doing, it won't last any longer. We're seeing the drops, and at this point, more companies, we're talking about the drop in reports, more companies can simply make different business choices. The reports will go away. The incidents are not going away. We're just being blinded to them.
And that's why it's so important that we strengthen these reporting requirements as we
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the examples that I have in the testimony was regarding 2 offenders who were ganging up on a young girl, forcing her to produce awful, horrific child sexual abuse content. We sent that report to law enforcement. We called out this weekend to find out what happened. You had 2 law enforcement agencies in 2 states serving multiple subpoenas, exigent subpoenas, trying to find that victim. Can't find the victim and don't know what happened because enough information was not provided at the moment they made that report. We need more details. If a report has been triggered, we need more details so law enforcement can actually protect children.
The reintroduction of the STOP CSAM Act marks a significant step toward protecting children online. However, its success depends on bipartisan support and public awareness. As this legislation progresses, we'll keep you updated on developments and ways you can contribute to this crucial cause. Protecting our children from online exploitation is a responsibility we all share. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work together to create a safer digital environment for our kids.